Oh, okay. Um, uh,
Hope you're all having a fantastic start to 2022. The new year, which means a lot of new music. And speaking of new music, joining us today we have Danish pop trailblazer Moo to chat with us about her newly released album Motordrome that just came out on January 28th. Moo, congratulations on your new album, and how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm just super excited and like high energy and sort of loopy, just kind of like, ah.
Let's talk about what inspired your new music. I know coming off of tour from your last album was super mentally, physically exhausting, and after that period of burnout, creating this album was sort of a way to escape that anxiety. Can you expand on that a little bit more and talk about how these events transpired to help develop this album?
After touring Forever Neverland, I realized I was just burned out, physically, mentally, and it made me take a break. And then COVID came, so that sort of like made that break even more intense in a way, which was really good because I think for a long time, actually, I had just been postponing these things that I needed to deal with, both like on a private level, but also in my business. And so all of a sudden, I had all this time to really fall back into myself. And that's
Yeah.
when like I started writing this album. And this album really just, it helped me build myself back up again in a way, because writing
Right.
music for me is very therapeutic, and it's very much in my songwriting that I understand myself and my surrounding better.
And you mentioned how just because during the pandemic came, it kind of allowed you to fall more into yourself. So I guess coming off of that, creating the album during a pandemic, what was different about your creative process this time around, considering those circumstances?
Oh my God. I mean, it was really like it was going from one extreme lifestyle to another. But
Right.
then all of a sudden, really getting into like that space and like having lots of time to really focus on the music. The years prior to that, I was just touring so much and doing so many collaborations that I
Right.
almost sometimes, when actually writing music, it was like just like, oh yeah, let's just do that and do this and woo woo woo,
Yeah.
like great, we have it. Whereas with this one, it was like there was really time to hone in on what I really wanted to do, which was magical for me to do it like that, actually.
Mentioning the fact that you were doing a lot of collaborations, and this album specifically, you don't have any collaborations. So aside from that, how else is this album kind of different than your last body of work?
With this album, because I was going through some personal stuff, I just thought that it was the most natural thing for me to do, was just to make an album where it's just, I mean, all about me,
Totally, totally.
so yeah.
You talked about how the album represents a huge change in your life. It's a new chapter, you're entering a new era. So, can you tell us exactly what that era entails and how the music on the new album embodies that?
Stopping touring, I experienced panic attacks and like all these like sort of mental health things. I'm so lucky that I've never tried before, but so it was the first time like kind of like meeting with this feeling of being out of control. I mean, again, I know I'm super privileged, I'm come from Denmark, and I can't complain, but like dealing with this was really like for me like a really big change,
Change, yeah.
and just really scary. The big change that it was that I learned that I need to be better at setting boundaries, and like that's really what this album is about in a way. It's about forgiving myself for not having set those boundaries. That was one of those bigger kind of changes in my life that I've been working on.
And coming off of the fact that you were talking about, you experiencing anxiety and all those kinds of things, I read that your title came from a conversation with your mother you had about your battles with anxiety. So, can you touch on the meaning of the title itself? And yeah, how did that conversation come to be?
After I stopped touring, I was talking to her and explaining how like all my thoughts would just like spin around in circles so fast that I couldn't really hold on to it. And she said that it sounded like, in Danish we say dødstrumlen, a dome of death, this kind of circus thing where people spin around, where it's like you continue to drive, because if you don't, then you will fall and
Crash.
crash. That title, I think, just really summed up the headspace that I had been in for many years. Not all the years of my career, but just for the last couple of years before I took the break.
Yeah.
It was just like, let's just keep going. We can't stop.
Yeah.
Which is a delusion. You can
Yeah.
totally stop, and you totally should sometimes.
Absolutely. I know Goosebumps is the first song that you wrote for the album, so it's got to be special for you in that sense. But in general, in the album, which track would you say that you're most excited for fans to listen to, and why?
I mean, all the songs has a special place in my heart because they're all part of the process, but I really love the last song, actually, the one called Punches, because I think that one is just really about accepting the stuff that you've been through, like all the highs, but also like the scratches that you've gotten, and just be like, I'll take this in. It's part of my journey and my experience, and I'm just excited for tomorrow.
I really do want to talk about the album cover a little bit. Looking at it, it reminds me of those old horror books. Are you familiar with the Goosebumps series?
Oh, yes, like so
Yeah.
much. I read all of it as a kid. Like I was obsessed.
Everything from the colors to the font, like the spooky paint dripping and the little like spiral in your eye. Tell me about the dark aesthetic. How do you think that album cover reflects your music?
With this album, because it's so personal and sort of dealing with some dark thematics, it's also just generally, I love really dark pop music. That's always been my shtick, you know? So I think I just, with this album, wanted to just lean into that, both visually and in the productions as well. On a lot of these songs in Motordrome, you have like 80s inspired, like dark synth, and there's guitars and stuff. So I thought it would make sense to use this color palette and this aesthetic in the cover was just something I really wanted.
I stalked your TikTok page a little bit and I noticed that you made a couple of videos telling viewers some like fun or interesting facts about some songs. So are there any facts about this albums or in the song specifically that you would like to share?
Oh my God.
Even if it's one, anything you could think of.
I mean, I don't know if this is a particularly fun fact, but just all these vocals have been like recorded in different studios in different places. Even though I was in Denmark throughout this whole time, it was like I've been moving around in like beach house, my parents' house, my apartment, a friend's studio. Yeah, I mean, it's not a super fun fact, but it was the best I could do.
No, that's great. I mean, it wasn't like you made the album in one spot. I think that's a fact.
I wish I kind of want to try that once though.
So looking forward for what's next in 2022 for you. You're back on the road. You're going on tour very soon. So tell us about that. Where are you headed? What are you excited about?
I'll be going on a support tour for Imagine Dragons in end of February. And then I have my own headline tour in North America in April and then in Europe in May. So I'm really excited about getting back. I think there's a lot of people that's like, and myself included, like hungry for live music. It's something we've all been missing for a while. So
a key part of what you do. So yeah, you need it.
Yeah, totally.
For you and the fans. Lastly, if you're up for it, I would love to make a quick like 3-song playlist together about your guilty pleasure songs. Like what is something people you wouldn't expect that you listen to?
Oh, okay. Maybe Iron Maiden with No More Lies. That's a song I put on when I'm really drunk, very late at night. You know that Finnish emo metal pop stars from the early zeros called Him? He made these really like metal emo love songs. Okay, and then the last one, I guess this isn't a guilty pleasure, but sort of like in line with the other ones, Placebo. Without You, I'm Nothing. That's in line with the other ones, and it's also very emo, sad love song kind of thing.
Cool. That was fun. Thank you so much for joining us today and for talking to us about your new album.
Good luck. Of course. It was my pleasure.
With touring and congrats.